Welcome back to News. Welcome back to Newsday. Thank you so much for staying with us. Now, the former Jigawa State Governor Sule Lamido has described President Bola Tinubu as a strong force in the political landscape of Nigeria who is hardly beatable.
Lamido predicts that defeating Tinubu in the 2027 presidential election will be a significant challenge given his strong influence over the country and the economy. He described Tinubu as a self-made man with a history of overcoming adversities from his time in Chicago to his political battles in Nigeria. According to Lamido, President Tinubu's ability to overcome various political obstacles, including opposition from Afenifere, former President Obasanjo, and even a sitting president to secure the presidency in 2023, calls for commendation. We now turn to Kenneth Okonkwo, former spokesperson to the presidential candidate of the Labour Party in the last election, Peter Obi, to examine why the PDP, NNPP, Labour Party merging is imperative and analyze Sule Lamido's claim that Tinubu is unbeatable in 2027. Good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining us here on Newsday.
Yeah, good afternoon. Thank you for inviting me, and good afternoon, viewers, for joining us in this episode.
Well, thank you for accepting the invitation. Now, how do you respond to some criticism that such a merger might be more about political survival than offering a genuine alternative to the APC?
Well, let me make it clear that as long as politics is concerned, the secret of acquiring political power is cohesion amongst your own group and collaboration with others. So coming together will always be an unbeatable denominator in a democratic process of acquiring power. However, I sincerely agree that the opposition is failing because they are concentrating on acquiring power from a ruling party rather than immediately after the election concentrating on consolidating their platforms and then taking on the ruling party on policies to convince Nigerians that they are the alternative force that should take over. The issue of the opposition trying to take power from a Tinubu will be a tall dream. And the reason is this. Our electoral system and judicial system have been overthrown. As long as the electoral process is concerned, here are my reasons. I was a member of the presidential team, and I can tell you unequivocally that our electoral jurisprudence has been destroyed. And the courts did this by giving INEC discretion to do whatever they like. The court say INEC has discretion on whether to transmit electronically or not. This is not what the law says. Let me make it clear, in my own opinion. So power does not proceed any longer from the will of the people in Nigeria, but from the discretion of INEC and from the desecration of the judiciary. And having that as bottom line, the opposition, they are just wasting their time. What Lamido said is true, because a Tinubu outside government was able to overwhelm the system. What about a Tinubu inside government? Now, let me tell you why I say our electoral jurisprudence has been overthrown. The court said, if you do not bring your petition, if you do not bring all your witness statement on oath, if you don't bring all your evidence within 21 days, your case is dead. Respectfully, again, that's not what the law says. The law says in section 285, subsection 5, petitions should be presented within 21 days. According to Rule 4, subsection 1D, petition simply means the facts that you need to prove, the grounds and the relief sought. It is not the evidence. In Rule 5, the rule for procedure for election said evidence need not be stated in the petition, but the court may give order that you should provide further particulars to prevent surprise and avoid unnecessary expense and to ensure fair and proper hearing of the suit. Meaning, the court, by subpoena, can allow subpoena witnesses to give evidence after 21 days. Because that's the only way that you will avoid unnecessary expense to the petitioner and ensure fair hearing. Why? An adverse witness will never voluntarily give you evidence that you will use against it. INEC, whenever they pronounce anybody as winner, when they come to court, they are under obligation to defend their own action. So they can never willingly give you evidence. The only choice you have is that when the court starts sitting, you will now use subpoenaed power to bring them to give evidence. Now the court is saying, once the court has started, if you've not produced any witness statement oath, your petition is dead. That means whatever INEC does, that is final. Then again, they move further and desecrated Section 137.
I understand you have a lot to share. You have such a wealth of knowledge, especially from your experience in the past election. I just want to keep the conversation moving forward. You said something quite profound, which is that you felt that instead of a merger, that the oppositions should be consolidating and taking on the current administration on policy. Now, when we speak of policy, each of the opposition leaders, I think one of the biggest sticking issues right now, of course, is the issue of subsidy. Now, each of the parties there represented had the same stance on subsidy, for example, right? So my question is, does it really matter? Do Nigeria's problems, are they going to discriminate against which of the leaders is coming in? Because these are all people who have been in the system before. So is it not time for faces who have not been in the system?
I completely agree with you that we need new faces. 100%. And that was why I have said it. That Atiku, P2B, Tinubu should step aside. And the reason is because the ruling party has failed, the opposition has failed. Are you aware that in the House of Representatives, you have more opposition members as representatives than the ruling class? If they had come together, and that's why I said coming together to form a consolidated fortune before you even begin to talk about merger. I did not say merger is not important. I'm saying you don't just finish an election and the first thing you start talking about is the next election. You consolidate and form alliances amongst yourself to work together as opposition. If all the opposition members in the House of Representatives had come together, they would have produced the Speaker and the Vice. Now, what you said about subsidy. The three parties agreed subsidy should go. The three parties did not say that subsidy should be responsibly, without plans, removed on the first day before a president sets up his cabinet, before a president makes any plan for the cushioning effect. A president in the inauguration ground said fuel subsidy is gone. The opposition parties did not subscribe to that. I came to your studio the next day saying we should be careful coming out of oil subsidy, that from the way this is done, it is unsustainable and it is still on record. Now, let me tell you something. According to the notable pronouncement of my Lord Gumel, in the case of Sheriff and PDP, he said proper leadership and good governance must be devoid, must underline, of whimsical and capricious conduct, of self-serving attitude, of nepotistic and despotic dispositions, but must, as a concomitant bottom line and as of its hallmark, must consist of selflessness, of sincerity, and of dedication to the service of the overall objective of the government. What is the objective of the government? Security and welfare of the people. This president is in China in a new presidential jet that is unnecessary, while people are dying for security problems in Sokoto, in Meduguri, and then you're saying that is what should be done? No, this government is nepotistic and despotic. It is very self-centered and egocentric, all about itself. Well, you can see the Senate president made it clear that let the people that are protesting against hunger and hardship, let them continue while they will remain feasting. Why wouldn't they be feasting? It cost Nigeria about 805 million naira to maintain one member of the National Assembly, while they are promising 840,000 naira a year for the worker that is actually the productive capacity of the nation. So what I'm saying is that please don't compare whatsoever the opposition, what they would have done if they are there, with what the ruling party is doing. But I agree with you that the opposition leaders have not been able to show leadership to inspire their members to make sure that this perfidy that is happening to our electoral process and our judicial process are corrected. Because if all the members of the opposition parties in the National Assembly have maintained their stand, APC wouldn't, for instance, elect members into INEC who are card-carrying members of APC. You saw the two of them that were elected in. They wouldn't be going away with having presidential jet when people are dying, because these things must come by appropriation. So I agree with you that the opposition leaders, it is only when they consolidate and take on the ruling party that the people will begin to have confidence in them, and then they will be talking about merger. Now, the only thing they are thinking about is election, rather than thinking about the welfare of the people. That is why I say all of them have failed. Because what are the opposition doing in the parliament? I'll give you an example. President Trump told the members of the House of Representatives that they should kill a bill. They are not the ruling power in America. And they killed it because he is in charge. That is what opposition leaders should be doing. Their members, they should be able to inspire them to make sure that they kill any bill that is not channeled to the security and welfare of the people.
All right, Mr. Okonkwo.
So that is exactly the position in Nigeria. The ruling party, the opposition, especially the faces that have been appearing as their leaders, they have failed, and they should all step aside for new people.
Of course, thank you for that explanation. You made it quite clear that we need to see new faces. And like you just said in your last statement, that the current opposition, in your opinion, has failed. And I'd like to ask, what groundwork do we need to see to have a political system that is more accommodating of younger politicians and new political movements? What do we need to do to have that groundwork in place for this much-needed change, according to you, to happen?
Yes, we have to overhaul our electoral process. We have to change some of the laws in our system that is shifting us towards gerontocracy. If a man is wise enough at 18 to vote, he is wise enough to be an administrator at 18. The University of Nigeria started training me as an expert administrator from age 16 and a half. Can you imagine? I graduated at 2021, and you're telling me I have to spend 10 years before assuming leadership of a country. Leadership is a gift, just like acting, just like every other talent. If a person has a gift of leadership, the person should not be denied of that leadership, even from 18 years. If he has the sense to determine who will govern him, he has the sense to govern others. That is one. I don't believe in age limit whatsoever. Why place it? In advanced countries, I've seen 22-year-old people being members of the National Assembly. Why say 35? Why even say 25? What's your business? It is the business of the people to determine who governs them. Now that we are having leadership deficit in Nigeria, they should allow young men to come in and take over. That's one. As I've told you, the electoral process has been overthrown. There should be an immediate amendment of Section 137 of the Electoral Act. Actually, there ought not to even be an amendment, because the provision is very clear. It is just the judiciary that overthrew that section, which said you don't need to bring any oral evidence to prove anything when the documentary evidence has manifestly proved it. If you go to INEC and they give you the documents you need, which they are compelled by law to give you, by Section 62, subsection 2(3) of the Electoral Act, you should be able to present it to courts, certified through copy, without asking another human being to come and speak to the document. The provision is clear and unambiguous, and the court ought to give it its interpretation. That is the first canon of interpretation. So we should allow people, if you want to prove your presidential, that there is a non-compliance to the presidential election, when INEC, which should be compelled to give you your documents early in time, it should be enough to prove your case. Secondly, there must have to be compulsion in INEC electronically transmitting the result. And the result electronically transmitted from the polling unit should be used to collaborate the manual results.
Right.
And there must be a proviso that if that is not done, the election is void. Not that it is voidable. Because non-compliance should invalidate elections. And again, the judiciary, whichever judge that does not rule according to law should be punished. If thieves are punished, the judges should be punished. Because the judges have even been said, an errant judge has been said to be worse than a thief. So judges should be punished in the same manner.
These points, they're all incredibly valid. So many takeaways from this conversation today with you, Mr. Kenneth Okonkwo. Such a pleasure to always be in conversation with you. Thank you for your time today.